We're live, everybody. Welcome to BK Live. We're down here at Brick House, just like we are every day. It's noontime, so it's time for all your hyper-local news here on BK Live. Hello, my name is Greg Johnson.
Hello, and I am Robin Cloud. Thank you for tuning in to this beautiful show.
This is going to be an unbelievable show today.
It's a great show today.
Yeah, you saw some disturbing news on your phone earlier.
Okay, so listen, I love swimming. I have a little bit of a fear of sharks. And so DNA Info reported today that there was a baby great white shark just off, like a mile off of Reese Beach.
That's breaking news.
Breaking news, okay? And I'm just warning you guys, besides the riptide, now they're sharks.
Oh my gosh.
Enjoy your summer.
Let's not cause pandemonium or anything like that, but yes, please, everyone,
I'm just saying,
try to enjoy
lake swimming, it's all about
summer.
the lake swimming.
Go swimming in a lake.
You can't see the bottom, you just figure it's safe.
Everybody have a great summer. This is a this is a phenomenal show today.
Yeah,
we have a lot of really
great.
cool guests to get to, and we'll get right into it. Based on Brooklyn Bridge Park and the new skating rink in Prospect Park, to name just two highly visible recent additions, you'd probably say Brooklyn's parks are getting their fair share of attention. Problem is, many Brooklyn neighborhoods aren't getting their fair share of parks. A number of communities either have little or no green space, or the parks they do have are poorly maintained, or in many cases, even though elected officials have allocated money for the parks, the green spaces they want to improve are getting tangled in red tape. City Council member David Greenfield, feeling very frustrated with the situation, will join us in a few minutes, along with the representatives of two park advocacy groups.
And come September, the question teens hear most often is, hey, what did you do with your hair? No. Hey, instead they ask, hey, what did you do on your summer vacation? A group of creative teens from the Gowanus-based nonprofit RealWorks are going to have a good answer to that question and lots of marketable experience by summer's end. They'll be spending August making their first feature film. The film's writer and director and three of those teens will join us later today.
And our fitness activist, Andia Winslow, will get straight to the point when she talks archery with the manager of Gotham Archery, which has just opened in Gowanus. I, for one, am all a-quiver with anticipation.
Quivering. And we may have buried the lead here because as we speak, an artist named Derrick Little is putting the finishing touches on his latest work, who happens to be a model named Emily McLoughlin. That's right, we've got a body painter in the house, my friends, and we'll be showing you their progress during the show before our big reveal at the end. But right now, Greg, whose suit is not painted on, thank God, is going to make his own reveal. Latest hyper-local news delivered as he takes us for a walk around the blog.
Thank you very much, Robin. You're the best. Let's take a look at the blogs, everybody. If you do the crime, you do the time, even if the crime in question is doing nothing at all. That's what Chris Gundin found out when he woke up in jail. The Daily News says the accused slumlord has racked up more than $380,000 in penalties tied to the 6-unit building he owns on Elton Street in East New York. Over the last year, tenants in Gundin's building have gone weeks at a time with no heat or hot water and had to put up with exposed wires that send sparks shooting from light switches. After tenants turned to the city's Housing Preservation Department for help, Gundin padlocked the basement door, look at that, to block inspectors.
Out of control.
We're not quite sure how much these apartments rent for, but city taxpayers have already paid $65,000 worth of repairs, a bill that will be passed on to Gundin. The landlord, who happens to live in Howard Beach, Queens, is one of only 4 city landlords arrested since January 2013. Gundin will be in jail for 6 months, or until he ponies up the $382,000. Then, once he gets out, maybe they should put him under house arrest on Elton Street. The Brooklyn paper reports that the Municipal Art Society of New York has released its annual list of Masterworks Awards for exemplary architecture and urban design, and the paper's got reason to celebrate. The County of Kings has won 7 of the 9 awards. Way to go. The best new building went to the Weeksville Heritage Center, designed by Caples Jefferson Architects. In fact, the folks from Weeksville were on BK Live to tell us about it just a few weeks back. Other honorees include the teams behind the environmentally friendly schoolyards at PS 216 and 261, which shared the Best Green Design Initiative Award. Not to toot our own horn much, but Brick House also made the list in the Neighborhood Catalyst category. Awesome, joining a pretty impressive set of previous winners that includes the new Museum of Contemporary Art, the High Line, and our neighbors at the Barclays Center. A big congratulations to the folks at Leaser Architecture on their award-winning design, and you got to come down and check it out if for some reason you haven't already. Now, we all know that thieves steal just about anything in New York, from iPhone bandits on the subways to the guys who poach bikes with blowtorches. And believe it or not, people used to actually swipe the swords from historic statues. What? Now, reports DNAinfo.com, they're being replaced. The Parks Department is planning to rearm those incomplete statues that were vandalized in the 1960s and 70s in the name of historic preservation. Why now? Well, apparently because crime in the city is steadily declining, the agency is no longer edgy about the threat of sword vandalism. The agency's preservation push has included the 2005 replacement of General Edward Fowler's missing sword in Fort Greene, and its Director of Arts and Antiquities asserts that no weapons have been stolen from any sculptures in 40 years. We think that's a great sign, since we love an intact statue as much as the next guy. But once the swords are all back where they belong, we hope the Parks Department will move on to another serious need, providing some real doggy bidets up in there. Look at that woman.
I cannot even believe that. I don't know what's going on there.
What is that
about?
about?
Is she really washing her dog's butt in the fountain?
You have a dog, right?
I have a dog.
You wouldn't do anything like that, would you?
No. One time I put my hand up to fill it with water and bring it to her mouth, and some guy yelled at me. I was like, she's not even at the fountain. I'm using my hand as a cup. At the top of the show, we mentioned we have body painting here today. Amazing. If you're wondering exactly where the artist decides to start working on his skin canvas, here's a look at how things were going fairly early in the process.
So my name is Derrick Little, and I'm a face and body painter based in New York City. This is my lovely model for the day, Emily McLoughlin, and we're going to be painting her as a swan, but also I'm coupling the body painting with costuming because it goes easier a lot of the times in terms of timing if you do body painting and sort of also add costuming to it, because if you do a full body it can take like 4 to 6 hours to do somebody. So we're scaling it down so that we can do something that'll within the time that we have, which is about 2 hours. But she's going to be a swan. It's a swan character.
Wow, holy moly. More on that later.
I can't wait to check it out.
To the end of the show. We'll talk to them both.
All right, so New York City has more than 1,700 parks, playgrounds, and recreational facilities, ranging from swimming pools to wetlands and woodlands to skating rinks, and 400 of them are right here in Brooklyn. These are publicly financed parks and facilities paid for by a current fiscal year city budget of almost $392 million. But not all parks and not all neighborhoods get an equal share of that budget. And a movement is growing to bring park equity to the borough.
and to tell us about this movement, what it is, where the inequity is most often found, and how it hopes to bring more and improved green space to a number of communities, we welcome back to the show Angie Vasquez, a leader with East Brooklyn Congregations and the Director of Religious Education at St. Barbara's Church in Bushwick. Angie, welcome back to the show. Thank you very much for being here again. As well as Sue Wolf, President of the Friends of Douglas Green Park. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
And James Yoles, Director of Communications for New Yorkers for Parks. Thank you all for being here. Thanks, James.
All right, so as we know, New Yorkers, Brooklynites, we love our green space because we live in the city and you need to get out. So give us a nice, concise definition of park equity.
I think park equity is something that somewhere where everyone can go to and have a great time and have a safe environment for their children to play in. And it's something that, unfortunately, in our neighborhood, I'm from Bushwick, that's where we reside, we don't have that. We actually don't. There's two parks in particular that are in this neighborhood. We have Heckscher Playground and Green Central Knoll, that we have asphalt grounds pretty much. Heckscher in particular, which is closer to where I live, is completely, like you can see actually that's Green Central Knoll right there. Yeah. That's Heckscher right there.
And that's
what we have.
A playground.
That's our playground. Like that has been there
lot.
Since I was a child.
Right.
Now that I have my child, that's what he sees as well.
There's no grass. I lived in that neighborhood myself. There was no park anywhere. Now, where does park equity fit in amongst other big issues in the city, such as affordable housing or things like that?
I think it goes hand in hand with sort of neighborhood and community planning. Parks are intertwined with housing, with other forms of infrastructure, so I think they need to be thought of in that way. At New Yorkers for Parks, around the city, we see a lot of examples such as this, where it's a concrete space. It is an open space, but are there ways to make these spaces feel a little more welcoming? There's a number of budgetary measures that can be taken both on the maintenance side and the capital side to lift up some of these spaces around the city.
Lifting up some of the spaces, and that leads us right into your work, Sue. Tell us about how you transformed the park that's near your place.
Well, first we were looking for green space in Boerum Hill. Surprise, there is none. And what we found, the closest place was in Gowanus, Thomas Green Park, which actually takes people from, serves people from Boerum Hill, Park Slope, Carroll Gardens, and Gowanus. And it was a terribly underutilized park. People didn't even know it was there. And it has the Double D pool, which is a wonderful pool. And we did get $900,000 to renovate a third of the park from our councilman and the past borough president. And that was finished in April. And we're still improving on that. And we keep advocating for the rest of the park that we want done.
Right. How do you push for these changes to come about in park equity, like Angie in your neighborhood?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we actually take it to the people, and there are many people. My story is not, I'm not the only person who has this story. We had assemblies over the past couple of months. We actually brought about 700 families to our council members to show them that this was a real issue. There was a real need, a real anger, a real neglect of our people. There's pictures there that you can see. We brought out these people who really needed this, and we held them accountable for their part in making sure that our community is getting what it needs. And we were able to get some commitments. We're still waiting to hear back on some of those commitments, and we should have an answer on them by tomorrow. But that's where we start. We start by organizing, getting people together, saying this is what we need, and holding our officials accountable for it.
And you have a big protest tomorrow planned, is that
we
right?
do have. We have a press conference tomorrow on the steps of City Hall, and we're looking primarily to hold the mayor accountable. We're looking for him to make sure that he can commit and invest in neighborhood parks, particularly our neighborhood parks, the ones that are completely being neglected.
What can we say about the budget? Sue, do you want to go ahead?
Well, the budget is one thing, but the other thing is you have to keep advocating for your park. You can't sit still. What we found, the EPA would like to put storage tanks under our swimming pool, which will knock us out for probably 10 years. With a neighborhood without a pool. And so this is the kind of thing, these storage tanks don't need, in our opinion, to be under that park. There are other places, and our councilman, Steve Levin, is working on that problem. The budget is such that if you don't speak up, if you don't keep advocating as a group, you don't get. And that's what we have found really worked for us.
So I live in Prospect Heights, and I've watched sort of the Underhill Park, which used to be sort of like nasty and ratty, transform into this amazing playground. And then I live close to Stroud Playground, which is really suffering. And so how would someone like me, a member of my community, go about transforming the park that's in my neighborhood?
Well, I think one of the keys is making yourselves known to your local elected officials, because,
Yes.
for example, some of the spaces in Bushwick that you mentioned, they need some capital improvements. And that comes down to, does the council member know that you're there, that you have this need?
Absolutely.
And
We
in
have
your
the
case, yes.
incentives, yeah.
But you gotta,
Maybe in
or-
Robin's case, she needs to speak up.
Yeah, perhaps
Where's your
she needs to
local
organize.
organizing, Rob?
right,
But
okay.
I think that's a key. I think going back to the budget question, there was some encouraging news last week. The council delivered more than $15 million to the budget. Granted, that is a small portion of the budget, but this is a significant increase, and it is for maintenance and operations, and it will bring 200 maintenance workers and gardeners full-time to parks most in need at the discretion of the Parks Department. And keep in mind that about 70% of the Parks Department's maintenance crews are part-time workers. So we've really been pushing for the number of full-time workers to get back up to the level where it has been in past decades.
Right.
Why is there so many delays and red tape with the funding?
Well, if you're referring to capital projects, my organization came out with a study recently. There was the New York Times story today about this report. We looked at a capital project construction. We looked at a number of city agencies, and in almost every case we found that the Parks Department has some room for growth and improvement. And so it comes down to, can the design process be expedited and improved? Can there be more cross-agency collaboration? One example in Brooklyn that we've recently seen is in Marine Park. There's been a bocce court that's been held up for a long time. And in this case, the Design Commission has continued to reject the proposed design. So that's held it up. So there are a number of ways that these projects can be held up, and we've proposed a number of ways that the process can be expedited.
Right. Now, do community gardens fall under all of this umbrella as well in terms of park space? Or is they're considered
The Parks
park
Department
space?
does oversee community gardens through its Green Thumb program.
And
They're
Sue,
very
how do you
important
feel
local spaces.
how do you feel overall about the changes and improvements that were made with the park that you were advocating for?
Well, we're very pleased. It only took us 5 years, and that was very frustrating, exactly what you're talking about. But the next step is because we're waiting for what's going to happen with the EPA. Because we have plans, and we have a wonderful design done by the Parks Department for a community house and a green roof on that, and full year-round bathrooms, which are sorely needed. But we have to wait, and that's very frustrating.
Yeah. Angie, you're having a huge protest tomorrow, trying to get your message across.
Yes.
If the mayor was watching right now and you could talk to him, what would you say to him about your neighborhood?
We'd say we need him to step up and do what he has to do. We'd say that he needs to really take a real hard look at the city and his tale of two cities and see that it's real and it exists, and that we need something done about that. We really need him to put the money where it needs to go, and that's towards parks and equity for our neighborhood, for our children, for our future, for our
What's
people.
great for your neighborhood is that there's $80 million in the budget for capital funding for what's called neighborhood parks. So we're hopeful that we'll see that go to places that need it, like your.
We'd like to see it happen too, and that's our point.
Exactly.
That we want to make sure he hears that we want to see that reality.
What are the differences between neighborhood parks, like you say, or private funded parks?
Well, neighborhood parks is sort of a loose term. It's actually this $80 million is actually in the budget under that category. I imagine it will be the discretion of the commissioner to determine which neighborhood parks are most in need. You asked about conservancies. There's a range of contracts that different entities have with the Parks Department, from zoos to museums to conservancies like Central Park and Prospect Park Alliance.
Right. And can a private person donate money to a park and include, have that be part, like the friends of your park?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the individual conservancies take donations, but the City Parks Foundation, which is a citywide group, does take donations on a citywide basis. And I imagine the city will be looking into other ways of bringing in private funding on a more citywide scale in the next several months.
That's great. Specifically something like Angie, you live in Bushwick. How do people get involved in your organization or get involved in the protest that's happening tomorrow?
The good old-fashioned way, we talk to people.
Yeah.
We talk to people, we get a sense for what they need, what they want. They come out and they support it because it's something that's important. So
Right.
we really network and we really communicate with people and we get our message across that way. We unite, we come together, and as a united front and a united voice, we bring our concerns to our elected officials
Right.
where they belong.
And if someone's watching today, though, how can they contact you? How can they become involved?
Well, they can contact EBC or they can contact St. Barbara's. So it's a matter of just contacting our offices and they can do that. But they can find us relatively easy enough. Yeah. So it's not. Yeah, we're pretty well known. Yeah.
Great.
For us, we're having an event this Saturday called Splash into Summer, which is because the pool's open. Actually on Friday.
Congratulations.
Great.
Yes, and we want to keep that pool open, but we're having an event from 2 to 4 because that's the time the pool closes, so they can have lunch and clean the pool and all that sort of thing. So you can find us on Facebook, Friends of Douglas Green Park.
Excellent.
Excellent. James, can people find out more about you somewhere?
Yes, www.ny4p.org. And there's all of our recent reports are there, testimonies, advocacy work. So take a look.
Well, thank you guys very much for being here and also for fighting for park equity all over Brooklyn.
you.
Thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much. And
Thank
good
you.
luck with the protest tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Can you imagine if you were directing a feature-length movie and most of your cast and crew wasn't old enough to go have a beer after a tough day of shooting? We'll meet a man that's in that exact situation in just a couple of minutes, along with 3 of his young crew members. They're from Real Works, and they'll tell us about the first feature film this award-winning organization has ever taken on. Here's a look at what they're attempting.
At RealWorks, we've been training young people to tell their stories and have their voices heard for over 13 years. Last year, Bilal and Dongo made a short film called 72 Hours of Love Story.
Because, son, I'm in love with Zakiya Francis. Zakiya Francis. Yo, I'm in love with the most beautiful, sweetest girl. She lives right. You can't even see her projects.
It's a very simple film, very funny, following his best friend across Brooklyn over 72 hours looking for the girl he loved. In this film, we saw the potential to develop the story into a much larger film that looked at growing up in Brooklyn through the eyes of teens, facing the struggles, the challenges, the ambitions, the love, everything that our young people face every day, real teens in real New York.
Why don't you have feelings for Caesar?
You know how you first meet a person and you like, wow, I think he's really cute, or I like the way he talks, I like the way he does this or that. Like, I don't feel that towards Caesar.
The dramaturgical work I've been part of has been an exercise in listening to young teens from Brooklyn and hearing their stories, and then writing an original story using that as raw material. What excites everybody who's working on this project is the idea of taking original, authentic experiences and boiling that down into something that can become a movie, something that feels real because it is real, and turning that into art.
So we're raising funds through this Kickstarter in order to pay for professional actors and crew who are going to work side by side with RealWorks teams throughout the production. Professional equipment and crew cost money, and that's why we need your help to support this Kickstarter campaign. Help us make 72 Hours of Love Story a real movie we're going to see in 2015.
Pretty cool.
Definitely.
Real Works in Gowanus has been running free filmmaking workshops for teens since 2001. Students can get involved through visiting educators in the classroom or by taking part in free after-school programs that pair students with local filmmakers. Graduates of the lab program create a personal documentary, and advanced students cover fiction filmmaking. Through this experience, many students find internships and employment in the entertainment industry.
To date, over 500 students have taken part in RealWorks programs, and their work has been seen by over 9 million viewers. Now, as we just saw, RealWorks is getting ready to make its first ever feature film. Joining us, we have Rafi Rivero, the writer and director of that feature, entitled 72 Hours, A Brooklyn Love Story. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
We're also really pleased to welcome 3 RealWorks students working on 72 Hours. We have Roshana Paul. Welcome to BK Live.
Welcome.
Kenneth Champion. Welcome. He's very serious today. There we go. And Maya Teale. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. We want to know the history of RealWorks. We want to know all about the movie you guys are making.
Yeah.
Rafi, how long has RealWorks been about, and how did you get involved?
Well, RealWorks has been around over a decade. It's been mentoring teens in Brooklyn for a long, long time, and I got involved. A friend of mine is on the board and had shown me a short about a year ago just to say, you should check this out, this is awesome. And I was like, wow, I emailed, you guys got to make a movie about this. He's like, yeah, we're thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. End of story. I was really inspired about it and kind of watched the short again on my own, thought about it. And a few months after that, maybe 6 months ago, he brought me in to mentor some teens, just kind of in an evening session at RealWorks. A couple weeks after that, they're like, yeah, remember that movie we showed you? We're going to do it. Are you interested? I'm like, am I interested?
What do you get out of it, and what do you see the teens getting out of it, working at RealWorks?
What I think is that everyone likes to tell stories. We kind of bottle them up through our lives, and everyone has a story to tell. And so teens, are able to kind of put stories of themselves that they're not able to see on screen in their own way, in their own voice. I think that's just incredibly empowering, and as a filmmaker, you get access. You get access to the people that you're on the train, or you're walking around New York, and you hear these kids, and you want to hear where they're going, what shoes they're wearing, what they're talking about. So you just kind of get access as a filmmaker into a trove of new stories, and new places that you wouldn't ordinarily have access to.
So Maya, tell us, how did you get involved in RealWorks?
In school, my teacher told me about it. I was like in my sophomore year of high school, and my social studies teacher was like, if you're not doing anything this summer, you should apply to RealWorks. And I was like, okay. So I applied and crossed my fingers, and you have to wait for everything that's really good. So I got a call back for an interview in the summer for the summer lab. And that's how I got started with RealWorks, the summer lab.
That's great. So you've been there a few years. What sort of projects have you worked on?
I was first in the summer lab, which is like a beginning program for RealWorks. It's like a precursor to all the other labs that you get into, the fall lab and the spring lab. It's kind of like a taster. So I was there in the summer, and it's really focused on creative writing. You do a film piece based off of creative writing that you do in the class. Cool. So yeah, I did a poem, and then I did a experimental piece based on a poem. It was called Garbage. I kind of went around the city taking a film of all the art and street art around Brooklyn. So
this is so cool. I wish this was around when I was a teen. Go ahead.
So what about you guys?
Well, I first got introduced to RealWorks through my friends. And Bilal, after his film, I saw his film, I really got inspired. I was like, yo, I want to do a documentary like that.
Right.
And it basically showed what we do on a daily basis. So I was like, okay, RealWorks might be a cool place. So I came around Halloween. It was like a Halloween get-together party thing going on. And then I seen the whole setup, the whole place, and I was like, wow, this place is cool. So then I got introduced to an improv class about this movie that they was gonna do. And then I was like, okay, so I'm gonna sign up because I want to, be in the film, see how it is. So
cool.
That's basically.
That's great. Let's talk about the movie. What is it, Roshana?
72 Hours of Brooklyn Love Story is basically a love story about kids and teenagers in Brooklyn, and you just get to see into their life. It's not like a regular movie, not like a regular chick flick. It's more like you get to see how life really is for them, and you get to find and see all the secrets that you don't see a regular teenager doing, or you find out what's going on in their brain.
Right. So you guys are really bringing something out to audiences where we get an inside peek, right? How do you feel like teenagers are represented now in television and film?
Correct. It's always this cliche, you see them doing certain things, it's just this, you got your, people your cool people over here, and then you got your nerds, you got your
Right,
weirdos,
right, right.
Yeah,
and it's like it's
All the cliques,
yeah,
yeah.
it's cliche. And when you see this, it's like every like different characters and stuff. Everybody's like, you know, certain the way they act. Everybody's clique comes together basically. And
Or,
it's,
I mean, like,
everyday.
when you watch TV about black teens now, it's either like, what you know about black
Word,
teens is
right.
probably like The Wire, or like stuff about
You're
gang
right.
banging,
That's
or
right.
things about like, that's not really representational of like teens now. We don't do stuff like that anymore because it's really not like trying to rise above that and do things that aren't like, you know, drama free really. It's like you want to get away from things like that, so you find outlets like Real Works, you find outlets like Groundswork. There's like a lot of things that you can do in the city. A lot of more things, positive things are accessible to teens. So there's like an underground like network of like skaters and people that bike and really have like a community amongst teens that do things and really go against the grain. So like that's what you see in this movie, like the skaters, the BMXers, people that hang out in Washington Square Park and just chill and, you know, vibe off of a different type of frequency than, you know, chaos.
Cool. Do you have a role for Robin and I in it?
Oh, sure, why
It's
not?
being funded through Kickstarter. We want to
That's
talk
right.
about all about this because the deadline on the Kickstarter
It's
is coming
tomorrow?
up.
Oh, no, 3 days. You get 3 days to get, okay, not bad.
$100 a day, you know?
Right.
$100 a day.
I
That's
think you
nothing.
guys got this.
We do.
Check out Kickstarter.
Did you guys
Yeah.
work on the budgets and like, are you working in the like producing capacity?
Yeah, we did a Kickstarter party, and we kind of
Nice.
like sat along all the IMAX and RealWorks and like pumped the link on Facebook and any other social media website, and we're like, please donate like $5 or $1, whatever you can,
Whatever you
really
can.
so we can really make this movie and represent like teens in New York.
That's
because,
great.
yeah.
Well, that's a lot of money to begin with already. People will have to continue to check it out. We want to talk about how you wrote the movie too. It was written dialogue and improv too. Am I right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a mix of a class where there's an improv acting class where we just kind of wanted to work with the guys and have everybody, you know, just do exercises. Some of it was just like you only say one word for the whole time, or you know, but eventually that turned into kind of coming up with scenes and creating new scenes. And we recorded that process. We took lots of notes. I mean, these guys are the ones who were doing it, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is amazing. But from there, because there had been kind of an original documentary and because there was this new process, we were like, well, how do we take all of this clay and hand it over to someone like me, and it is actually me, so I can say what happened, and then
Right.
you start plotting that out
structured,
and writing it and coming up with new ideas. So it's been a really organic process, I'd say, and really fun to kind of meet and interact with and kind of craft characters out of these people that we all know, but also to say, hey, this is fiction. This is, you know, how can we shape this so that people feel something in the moment we want them to feel it.
Excellent. So after the film is done, right, you shoot for 30 days, you edit. What are your plans for the film?
World domination.
Yes.
Exactly.
Domination. Perfect.
Put it simple, basically.
Yeah,
No, I think we'd like to go and show at a lot of festivals, as many as possible. I mean, I think it's very important for us to be able to show the film in New York City, in Brooklyn, so that people who are a part of the making of the film, our Kickstarter backers, our neighborhoods, the places where we shoot, are able to, you know, participate and see it, and see that these are real Brooklyn teens, and this is our community at work. So that's important for us to be able to screen here, but we'd also like to screen it as many places as possible.
Yeah, real Brooklyn teens, and you know, because of your ambition and because of RealWorks, you guys are future superstars of the film industry, if you ask me, right?
Do you guys want to go into the film industry? Like,
Yeah.
you made that decision?
Yeah, like I want to direct, so I hopefully like when we're going through this process, I can maybe like, you know, work with the cameras and stuff. If Ralphie
like
teach me, like, yeah, it'd be cool. Like, oh, yeah.
Wow.
How do
What
people
was that?
find?
Wait, what is that? What did you say?
Well, after I made my film, I really felt like I like to edit, and now I work for RealWorks, so I'm getting up my editing skills, and that's what I want to do in college.
Nice.
Like I want to find a way to like edit either music or film or direct.
Cool.
Excellent. We need more female directors
Yeah.
and editors, so.
More female representation. in
Female
film,
period.
pops,
Yes.
like, period.
Thank you to you guys and to RealWorks for making something like that happen. Where do people find the Kickstarter?
So we're on Kickstarter. It's called 72 Hours, A Brooklyn Love Story. If you just search 72 Hours as like, ours is the top 72-hour project on Kickstarter. We're number one. We're on the front page of the Brooklyn page. If you just go to Kickstarter.com and you're in Brooklyn, you'll see us on that front page as well. But 72 Hours of Brooklyn Love Story, and you'll find us, and please be a part of our project.
Yes, and we'd love to have you back when it's all done, so we can talk about what the whole experience was.
Definitely visit realworks.org too. I mean, because we're on there too. You know,
and if people want to join the program, new programs for the summer, there's still time.
Summer Lab, Master Lab, Spring Lab. Well, Summer Lab, there's pretty much been filled up, but apply for Spring Lab, apply for Fall Lab, apply for the next Master Lab. It's a part of that too. So like,
and what's the age group that's allowed? Is it like high school?
14 to 18.
14 to like 20 really.
Yeah.
14 to 20.
True.
Okay, you got that, everybody? 14 to 20.
Check out RealWorks. Thank you guys very much.
You guys are great.
That's
Keep up the
awesome.
good work.
And looking forward to seeing the movie.
Me too.
Congratulations. So we figure Emily, our body painting model, must be looking pretty artsy by now. Later on, and stay tuned, we'll get to see the finished masterpiece here in the studio. But right now, let's check in with Derrick and Emily and see how it's going. Thank you
What I'm
guys
doing
so
now
much.
is because airbrushing. If you want to paint somebody fast like we're doing right now, the best way to, in my opinion, is to use an airbrush, because you can pretty much lay out the entire design before I get here. And I have dress forms and actually like model forms and mannequins in my studio that I actually design on a lot of the times for girls that are different sizes. So this is a beautiful stencil that I cut, and we're going to apply this here. And so this will be the base of the design, and then there's going to be a lotus down here and lots of other intricate things we're going to add. So this is sort of how you basically lay a body painting design on. It's going to be in it. So there's a lot of interest these days. It's becoming more popular. I think people used to sort of like think that it was like a fetish thing, a lot of nudist parties and so forth. I think it's mainly because of the internet. It's just like everything in the world these days. People have access to it. You know, I mean, it's a different world that we're living in. You know, people can go on YouTube and see, you know, any type of, you know, a makeup tutorial or about face painting or body painting. I think it just has to do with the availability, you know, of knowledge that used to be very specialized. You know, before you'd really only see body painting if you were apprenticing with a body painting person, or if you were in the makeup industry, or if you were doing a photo shoot. Nowadays, you know, because people can share, more people are exposed to it, and therefore more people are interested in it. I think the weirdest thing that I ever had was I worked for the opening of Donald Trump's building, the Trump Soho, and he wanted 2 girls painted as his new building. And that was very The Apprentice, because we actually got fired off that job, which was really, really great. Me and my models all got fired.
Hello, Brooklyn. Andia Winslow, your resident fitness activist, and I'm amazed by the artistry of The Body is a Canvas. It's beautiful. The finished product is coming up soon, but before that, we have in the studio with us Ken Shu, the founder and partner of Gotham Archery. Ken, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So in the Gowanus corridor of sport, we have a new entity, 7,500 square foot, 30-lane archery facility. Tell us about Gotham Archery.
Sure. It was founded with the intention of introducing the sport to as many people as possible that otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to be exposed to it. Brooklyn was the perfect place to open up. Very open-minded. Again, we were inspired by companies like Brooklyn Boulders and Palm Shuffleboard, where they just brought a niche product in. People fell in love with it, and we're hoping to do the same with archery.
So when people think about archery, they might think about the movies that have popularized it recently. We've got Hunger Games and Katniss and her pursuit of the wind. We've got Lord of the Rings and Legolas. We've got Game of Thrones.
We've got Brave for the kids as well.
Brave. We've got Robin Hood taking it back.
Yeah.
How did you get into archery?
Well, I would try a new thing every year, and I started this about 10 years ago, and when I got to archery, essentially I came to a dead stop and said, wow, this is really fun. This is something I want to do. The problem is there was very few places to do it. The ones that had archery.
And here in New York, you mean?
Yeah, they were packed. And so I would go out to Long Island 2 or 3 hours just to get coaching. And then I said, you know what, let's try it in Brooklyn.
So you've been doing archery for 6 years. When did you decide to make it a business, and how did you find your partnership team?
Well, the first 3 years for me were kind of rough because I was looking for a coach. I couldn't find one. You know, things were busy. It wasn't as popular because this is pre-Hunger Games. I was offering people $50 an hour to coach, $75 an hour, $100. Couldn't find one. And about 2.5 years ago, I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman by the name of Anthony Camera. He authored the book, Shooting the Stick Bow. And basically, he offered to coach us for free if we traveled out to Long Island 3 times a week.
So if you show the dedication, I will help you become the athlete.
Pretty much he said, yeah, if you show up 3 times a week, that's the only way I'll train you. I will not accept any money.
Wow,
if you're
awesome
passionate
human.
about it.
And you're passionate.
Oh, you better believe it.
So you had the soft launch on Friday the 13th, a couple weeks ago, and the hard launch is coming up when?
About a week. We basically, again, some of the newspapers reported that we were open as of last Friday. It was kind of true. We did a 3-day soft launch, and we wanted to basically get the feedback for a lot of the beginners. It's so important for us to introduce archery to you, for example, as a new person, the right way. If your first experience is horrible, where you don't enjoy it, where, let's say, pulling back the bow it's not the right bow for you, you're going to have a horrible time. You'll never take up the sport. So we're really trying to kind of break that mold and create a really welcoming environment. So get rid of the old boys club type of thing and introduce you guys to it.
Sure, it's actually a good segue to talk about the history of archery.
Sure.
Sending the arrow with the bow.
Sure.
It started out as an issue for combat or for hunting, and then it became a competitive sport. Then it was a recreation for or an art, in fact.
Yeah.
How do you think modern times have revolutionized the sport?
So basically, if you look at archery, the way it was introduced into the Olympics, I think in 1900 or so, it was also one of the first sports to allow women to compete as well. And that's modern times. It's elegant. It's basically a different type of sport versus your typical. I look at archery as an internal sport. If you look at most sports like football, basketball, baseball, it's external. So to dominate or do well, you have to have some type of, I guess, physical benefit. Either you're faster or you're stronger. Archery is totally internal. That's why it's a real big confidence builder. It's basically you competing against yourself, improving, knowing your body position, focusing, and again, being body aware, self-aware.
Self-aware, but also external enough to understand the tool that you're using. And you have some with us here today. We've got the longbow here is...
So this is a recurve bow. So basically, there's multiple types of bows and arrows. For Gotham Archery, what we choose to use is a Olympic-style recurve. This is a USA Archery Olympic recurve. And we also offer a compound. In this case, this is kind of a pseudo-compound. It's a Matthews Genesis bow. It's great for basically people just starting off. It has a mechanical advantage because of cams and wheels, a little bit easier to control as well.
So show us how you draw this back.
Sure. Now, in my rush to come here today, I ended up pulling a mini Genesis, which is a smaller bow, and a left-handed bow, and I'm right-handed. But with the mini Genesis, I'll walk you through it.
And this is what I'll use when I first start to try things out.
You'll use an adult version.
Adult version.
So this one is a little bit different.
I'm a kid at heart, though. Would I still use an adult version?
You know what? We'll find something that works for you.
All right.
But basically, with archery, the most important thing is, again, body awareness and keeping consistent,
What about breathing?
form.
Is that?
It is, actually. But for the beginner class, we don't want to overload a lot of people. They should just enjoy it, have fun. And then once they do, they'll realize, you know what? If I do want to get good at this, I'll have to remember the extra steps. So we use a shortened version. USA Archery is essentially the governing body for Olympic archery in the U.S. And they have a system called BEST, Biometrically Efficient Shooting Technique. And what we try to do is simplify that because as a beginner, you don't need 20 steps or
no information dump.
Exactly, to get to enjoy it. But what you do need to remember is archery is about consistency. This is never going to change. Your body is what's going to change. So what we want everyone to do is, again, maintain a consistent stance every time. Your bone structure basically serves as your kind of roadmap. So when you turn your head, we ask you to anchor to the corner of your mouth. basically bring it back to this point so that you know you're at the same position every time.
Okay, consistent anchor.
Exactly. So imagine if I pulled one arrow this way, and again, this is as far as I can pull back with the Mini, but one arrow this way, that, it's going to go to different areas. So what they want you to do is lock essentially to the corner of your mouth so that you know every single time you're drawing back to the exact same position.
All right, draw it back for us, Ken. Let's see what it looks like.
Well, this one's a Mini, so basically you would have an elbow high, pull back. And for me, this is as far as I go, but usually you would be able to pull back right around here.
Awesome. Well, people can find out more about Gotham Archery online, Twitter at Gotham Archery, and online got-archery.com.
Yes.
Any cool events coming up that people should take note of?
Sure. Well, what we're trying to do is we're going to be introducing multiple programs. So again, like I mentioned, USA Archery is the governing body for Olympic archery in the U.S. They have a formal program called Junior Olympic Archery Development.
Excellent.
And it's mainly for us, we have a 10-year-old age minimum. So 10 years old to 18 years old can compete in this. And it's almost like when you send your kids to karate or taekwondo. Except in this case, your scores are recorded, and you can actually enter national competitions as well, and hopefully make the junior dream team one day.
That's amazing. So, the Gowanus Corridor.
Yeah.
Gotham Archery.
Yes.
Amazing new facility.
Thank you.
I'm going to be there soon.
I'm glad to have you over.
I'm excited.
I'm telling you, and it's not just for adults. I mean, we've had grandparents come in, we've had teenagers come in, and they just fall in love with it. And the confidence it inspires, again, no matter how young you are, how old you are, physical level, they'll find something where they can compete at the same level if we match your equipment to them.
Well, we're so glad you brought it to Brooklyn. Thanks so much for being here today.
Much.
Thank you. Still to come, Derrick Little tells us how he got into painting bodies for a living. Is there a degree for that or something? But right now, here's more music from Burning Spear.
When the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. For when the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? I will call on you. No crying, my brothers, crying. No stop, no, stop. No time to lose. Time to lose. We must go home sooner. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. For when the sun goes down and we...
All right. Well, we all know artists are trained to draw from life, but very few make a specialty of drawing on life. If you've been following the body painting brushstrokes throughout today's show, we're just about at the point when our final artwork will be ready for viewing.
Yes, the big reveal is almost here. Call it a BK Live news flash.
Woo!
First, we want to formally introduce our body painter and ask him about his work and what led him to it. Derrick Little, welcome to the studio, Derrick. Thank you very much for being here. How did you get into body painting?
I got into body painting sort of through New York City nightclubs. In the 90s, I moved to New York after sort of leaving school, dropping out of school, and got into the club world here. And so I started either doing makeup on myself, and then I also got into doing makeup on bartenders and go-go dancers, performers for a long time, and that's sort of how I got into it.
Wow.
The official transition was after 9/11. It's sort of like when I decided to just take the plunge and only do face and body painting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever do any formal painting?
Yeah, I do formal painting.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I'm pretty much all self-taught. I mean, I went to an arts high school in North Carolina, but after that, the rest is sort of history. I actually studied filmmaking.
Oh, hey, we just had some filmmakers in here.
What type of paint do you use? Or go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to ask, how do you make it so realistic? It's amazing.
Well, this technique is done pretty much with airbrush. And so airbrush is what they use in a lot of special effects makeup because it gives a much subtle and more blended sort of like shading effect, which is what makes it generally look more realistic. If you do all like sort of sponge and brush work like what you would do on a canvas, it looks more, you know, more like a Picasso or more like a heavy-handed. It's harder to get the shading and so forth.
What are some of the obvious or not so obvious challenges to body painting?
Obvious challenges are is that you're working on a person, and their energy has a lot to do with how the work basically is presented at the very end. You know, I've actually worked on models who were hired for gigs where their agent did not tell them what they were going to do until they showed up. And then you have, people have body issues. So you need to have a willing model, first of all, to wear your work well. And then the other thing is, you know, there's a lot of curves and different planes on the body. I consider myself more of a costume designer than I do a body painter. I design costumes that happen to be painted on rather than sewn.
Okay, and what type of paint do you use when you're doing body paint?
It's all FDA-approved face and body makeup. It's actually not paint.
Oh, okay.
So there are many different brands that you can use, and it depends on what the model's going to be doing in it. You know, if you need them to be waterproof, you have to use a Dura makeup or liquid latex. If it's just for a photo shoot, you can use water-activated cakes. If they're going to be on stage and they're going to be sweating, use grease makeup. So there's many different brands now as it's becoming more and more popular.
What can you say about this specific work you did here?
This was actually a piece that was commissioned for a private client probably about a month ago, and I merged with a very good friend of mine, a costume designer, and fellow artist named Liz Bullock, who's from Connecticut, and she made this beautiful shrug. Together we made the skirt, and the headpiece is a piece that she had in her arsenal of costumes. And the reason why we're sort of merging costuming and body paint is if you have to do multiple girls, like to do an entire body, every square inch, it can take 4 to 6 to more hours. And so, you know, you're going to have a model who has to go to an event who's already been getting their work done for 8 hours, and they have to have a smile on their face and like be the belle of the ball. So this is a way of sort of like cutting the time down, you know, and giving the wow effect. She's all painted, but also you don't have to paint her back or her legs, and you know, you can incorporate it. So that's sort of where, when I do events, I sort of push people more in that direction. Just because it cuts down on the time involved, you know?
Now what about getting this stuff off? How long does it take? How many showers is she going to have to take today?
I don't know. If she has a boyfriend, she'll only have to take one. But this comes off pretty easy. This is water-based makeup. But there is other makeup, like Dura makeup, that you actually have to use alcohol to take off. And that can be, I don't use it that often. It's what they use to do temporary tattoos, or when you're on a set and somebody has to be tattooed for the entire duration of a shoot. That's when you'll use that. But you can use that.
Do you work for movies and things like that?
Yep. Okay. I just did a mermaid for the new Annie film that's coming out. So yeah.
There you go. What's the longest you've ever painted a body for? You said 8 hours?
No, it was 11.
Oh my God.
What is that like?
It was torture. Well, actually, it was on a contortionist. It was a lovely. One of my very first body paintings was on a. She's actually just been in Pippin. Victoria Grimmy. She's a contortionist that I met at Six Flags years ago. And it took me 11 hours to paint her in her home. And then, believe it or not, after that, I mean, I was doing everything by hand and sort of like didn't really know what I was doing. But it looked great. And then we did a whole photo shoot, and she contorted and did hula hoops and all this stuff. That's a Russian circus performer for you. She had endurance, yeah.
So if someone wants to find you and hire you to, you know, paint their body, where can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me either through either of my websites, either derricklittle.com. That's my main website with just me, or Body Art by Derrick has more body-specific, you know, questions people may have. And my studio is based in Bushwick, and I actually do in-house photo shoots and private sessions with people. Been doing a lot of that now.
Wow. What sort of private sessions? Real quick, if you don't mind.
I do everything from pregnancy shoots. You know, I do a lot of like maternity shoots where women and their husbands want to commemorate the pregnancy by putting a design on the belly. And then a lot of the times I'll photograph them, and then they'll have it at a baby shower or something. A lot of friends are buying that for their friends now. And then I also just have people who want to commemorate their body as they're aging. I've had a few of those over the past few months where older women have actually contracted me to sort of like document what they look like at, say, 30, so that they, something they've always wanted to do, and they have this memory of, what they look like, so when they're 80, they can remember what they looked like before it all fell.
My favorite body paint, I've seen a pregnant woman and it had loading on it.
Had loading?
Yeah, like it had like a little computer graphic. It was very funny.
Derrick Little, body painter extraordinaire.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Phenomenal work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for my beautiful model, Emily, for wearing it well.
Yes.
Thank you guys both very much for being on BK Live.
We enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Check out Derrick Little.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Now, from body painting to the city budget, it's just not as sexy now, is it? But hey, on tomorrow's BK Live, we'll ask local reporters to give us a bit of a primer on Mayor de Blasio's big new budget and what it means for Brooklyn.
And when you watch the U.S. play in a World Cup game, you can't miss all those folks painted red, white, and blue and screaming USA. Well, we're letting some of those rabid fans loose in the studio tomorrow when the Brooklyn Outlaws pay us a visit the day before the U.S. takes on Germany.
And this Saturday, it's the borough's biggest munch-in. It's the annual Brooklyn Eats, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, and we'll get a preview of all the restaurants, distillers, bakers, and so on who will be participating. Unfortunately, words and pictures only tomorrow, no food.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Tune in again tomorrow. I'm Greg Johnson.
And I'm Robin Cloud. Thanks for watching.
Have a great day, everyone.